Hey y'all, Michelle Raza here with the Finding Yourself Book Club, and today we're going to be discussing John Gottman's What Makes Love Last. We're going to finish up the chapter on recovering from infidelity. If you haven't had a chance, please do check out our website. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There you can fill out a contact form or just chat with us. You can also download our life balance questionnaire, fill it out, and send it to us via email. Your first consult is always free. All right, so we are on, of course I get lost here, the Gottman's trust revival method, talking about atoning. So it's atone, attune, and attach. Understand what went wrong. Both partners need to grasp why betrayal occurred in their relationship. It isn't enough to say, I felt lonely, or I made negative comparisons, or we spent too much time in the nasty box. The couple need to fill in the details. Why did the betrayer turn away, engage in negative comms, invest less in the relationship, and become less dependent on getting needs met through it? Likewise, why did that partner engage in thoughts unfavorable to the other's character, blame him or her for the unhappiness, stay open to or even encourage flirtation, and give oneself permission to cross that boundary? Only through digging into these questions, only thorough digging into these questions will prevent future disloyalty. As you review your history of negative patterns, the straying partner must avoid accusing the wounded one. Again, the goal is to understand what went wrong, not to shift the blame. We are the master of our actions. Accepting responsibility is part of healing. Much of this process requires the cheater to become more aware of enduring vulnerabilities. It's essential to explore what triggered these emotional frailties during conflict or sliding door moments. My session with Laura and Malcolm, who had been counseled by ministers to just move on, demonstrates how the lack of openness about deep-seated needs can lead to disaster. Laura's competence and self-sufficiency made Malcolm feel unneeded and lonely, as if he were nothing but just a paycheck with a pulse to her. He was susceptible to this intense reaction because his parents' muted expressions of love for him as a child gave him the sense he was unimportant, as if he could disappear without them noticing. This vulnerability led him to turn away during sliding door moments when his wife would not ask him about his work stress. Because he felt unneeded by her, he didn't believe she really cared and shut her out. Explore the cheater's reasons for returning. The betrayed partner needs a clear explanation of why the deceiver wants back in. What is compelling him or her to rebuild the relationship? If the reason isn't made clear, the partner will remain wary that the new commitment is not genuine or will be short-lived. Laura worried that Malcolm would stray again because she didn't understand why he left or why he came back. But during my guided discussion with them, he was finally able to explain it to her. The key was his longing to feel necessary. That unspoken desire drew him away from his wife and toward a woman whose life was a mess and who needed his support. But now that he has opened up and shared his need to be needed with his wife, they can work together to have Laura fulfill this longing at home. This explanation for Malcolm's return makes sense to Laura. Therefore, it will be possible for her to trust that he's back for good. Exact a high cost for future betrayals. The deceiver must accept that any future infidelity will mean the permanent end of the relationship. There won't be a second chance. Couples therapists tend to feel uneasy using the word punishment. We are far more comfortable with the idea that, as the famed family therapist Salvador Minuchin put it, the betrayer's sense of moral responsibility will motivate him or her to recommit. From this perspective, the former betrayer stays true out of a sense of justice, deep empathy, and a desire not to be one of those people. However, based on my work with couples, I believe in adding a strong disincentive to straying again. The betrayer needs to know there's a catastrophic cost to any subsequent deceit. Evidence for the success of this approach comes in large part from research on group behavior by social psychologists. In a compelling study that offers insight into punishments as deterrent to many forms of betrayal, Vincent Buskins studied the trust relationships between Orthodox Jewish diamond merchants. These businessmen create such high trust networks that they can exchange million-dollar jewels on only a handshake. To sustain such a high confidence level, this tight-knit community exacts an enormous cost for any betrayal of its code. If you deceive, then your friends, neighbors, and co-workers all shun you. As Buskins explains, those who are untrustworthy must be expelled or punished severely enough for other actors to see that untrustworthy behavior is only worthwhile in the very short term. Begin to forgive. This is the last step in the atonement phase. The hurt partner accepts the other's apology and begins to pardon him or her. Just a second, y'all. Okay. But this doesn't mean the erring partner is absolved. In this context, forgiveness means the deceived partner is willing to cooperate and trust, even in the face of uncertainty and the atoning partner's occasional slip-ups. An acceptable slip-up is not a return to the affair or a new indiscretion, but an invasion of the past that produces a regrettable incident. A husband might buy his wife flowers from the same store he used for his lover. She knows this because she saw those credit card receipts. Part of forgiveness is to acknowledge that anyone can be untrustworthy on occasion. None of us is perfect. What the betrayer did was shameful, but he or she is changing that behavior. Game theory can elucidate how forgiveness works under these circumstances. The most well-known mathematical game about trust and betrayal is the prisoner's dilemma, which Axelrod studied in depth. In a typical version, the police subject two suspects to separate interrogations to garner confessions. The prisoners make a pact not to confess, but neither can know whether the other will keep it. If the prisoners stick to their agreement and neither admits guilt, they both go free or receive short sentences. If one prisoner betrays the other and confesses, he or she gets to turn state's evidence and earns minimal jail time, while the other receives the maximum. If they both confess, they each go to jail. Clearly, agreeing not to confess is the best strategy for them both. To achieve the ultimate benefit, they need to abandon pure self-interest in favor of cooperation and trust. Countless studies find that if you play the game for just one round, it is rare for the players to stick together and refuse to admit guilt. Time and again, the two choose betrayal, turning state's evidence as the best alternative. They don't trust that the other will hold out. This result is disapproving and says a lot about human nature. Axelrod's major question was, if you play the game for multiple rounds, what is the best approach or strategy to maximize the number of times the players cooperate? He developed a sophisticated computer simulation to find the answer. Axelrod's calculations indicate that the most important factor in maximizing cooperation is how a player reacts after he undermines it by deceiving the other one. To recover the other's trust, the erring player needs to cooperate going forward, even if the other player ceases to. In other words, the atoning player has to rebuff the police even if the other player keeps confessing. Axelrod referred to this as contrition. The parallels with the process of healing after betrayal are clear. If the cheater is perceived to slip up while the couple is in counseling, he or she must stick with the process and work to win back the other's trust, even if the partner doesn't respond at first. The hurting partner also has a responsibility after a mess-up. He or she must try not to abandon the process of healing if the other continues to atone and work for forgiveness. This means being generous and accepting the partner's apology for now. Axelrod found that a pardon was most successful in increasing trust if a player offered it just 10% of the time. It would be unwise to take this figure literally in the context of an ailing relationship, but it does offer a rough guide of how often to accept apologies and move on. The deceived partner should not tolerate an extensive pattern of missteps, which would constitute a re-victimization. But cutting the other a break after an error indicates a willingness to continue the work toward healing. In phase 1, forgiveness means not walking away if the other steps in it from time to time. And then we move on to phase 2, which is attune. Okay, attune, phase 2. After the couple emerge from the atonement stage with tentative forgiveness, they come together to build a new relationship. First, they acknowledge that the old one didn't meet both of their needs. The victim should not be blamed for this past deficiency, but he or she must cooperate in constructing a new approach. To reach this challenging goal, the couple must use the attunement skills described in chapters 7 through 9. A deep sense of feeling known and knowing the partner is the ultimate shield against disloyalty. Giving the partner access to one's sadder, darker, and more vulnerable inner realms requires courage, particularly for those who come from a background where anything but a stiff upper lip is considered unacceptable or even shameful. But sharing enduring vulnerabilities prevents either partner from feeling lonely or invisible. Two powerful setting conditions for betrayal. Couples must also relearn how to handle conflict so that it doesn't overwhelm them and create new distance. For this purpose, I guide them through the Gottman-Rappaport blueprint and the aftermath kit described in chapter 9. Applying these two methods is a very intense process and therefore requires a therapist who is comfortable with strong emotions and who can build a solid alliance with both partners. All of this work builds a strong foundation of trust and also a high trustworthiness metric. The former cheater is now dedicated to putting the relationship first. As part of this new commitment to cherish each other, the couple goes public with the new normal in their relationship. They alert the people closest to them, such as children, in-laws, and close friends, that they have recommitted and are working toward rebuilding trust. Getting the word out helps to establish this new relationship as real and garner support from the people who are closest to them. And now we move to phase 3, which is attach. Up until now, I haven't really discussed intimacy, the topic people often find the most difficult to broach after an affair. In the aftermath of betrayal, the victim often does not want to risk physical intimacy with the straying partner. There is too much fear, anger, and vulnerability. But if the couple is determined to stay together, the ability to attune has to reach the bedroom as well. Without the presence of a sexual intimacy that is pleasurable to both, the relationship can't begin again. In a long-term love, this intimacy is founded on a healthy interdependency that satisfies the longing for connection. This bond serves as a stalwart barrier against distractions. The keystone to this is a steady diet of those intimate conversations I walked you through in chapter 7. But now you have to include intimacy as a major topic during these sharing sessions. Learning to communicate about this is not just for couples healing from sexual disloyalty. It is crucial for couples recovering from all forms of betrayal. Okay, so this was a bit of a heavy chapter. Really good stuff here. John Gottman's What Makes Love Last. There are some topics, the next chapter actually, I don't feel comfortable, especially given YouTube's limitations. Some of it gets a little raunchy, so chapter 11 I am going to skip. But I do recommend that you pick up your own copy of the book. There's a lot of good quizzes in here that I haven't taken the time to go over. Also do contact us if you'd like to discuss this work further. It's part of our repertoire of resources. We have Gottman's works, Gibson's works. We also have some anger management type stuff by Wendy Coates that we work through. And I'm actually currently researching a food and feelings journal. So depending on the quality of it, we may add it to our library as well. But give us a call. Fill out a contact form, text us through the site. Would love to hear from you. Also, I love the comments on the YouTube videos. They're all very positive so far. So really just happy for the community that's being built. We have had some people join the Facebook group. I know Facebook is no longer cool. It's for old people. But if you want to join the Facebook group, I'd be happy to have you there too. So yeah, thanks for being here with me. Look forward to talking with you soon. Take care.